Hello and welcome to this podcast. Today we are going to be talking about prepositions at the end of sentences and questions, also called preposition stranding. I have changed my Wi-Fi, so hopefully that's what the problem is, because a lot of people it seems like some people could see me and other people were not able to, so I decided to just start the live over. But yeah, welcome back everyone. I hope that you are doing well. We are just going to start over from the beginning, so no worries if you missed something. We're just going to pretend like nothing happened, and I'll go for an hour so we won't miss the time. Okay. Sorry about that. I thought maybe it was my Wi-Fi, but I also was confused because I feel like some people said they could see me, so I didn't know if I should start over, but now we're back. Okay. So today I'm going to get us started. The first thing that I think we can do to, okay, I'm glad that's better now. We just needed a little chaos at the beginning of the class. So we're going to first practice collocations with prepositions. What is a word that combines with a preposition? First, I have different words. They can be adjectives or verbs that combine with the preposition at. If you ask me I'll share it here. If you ask me what the preposition at means, there's not one meaning, and that's true for prepositions in general because these are linking or connecting words and not something like a verb that has a more concrete action, like I run. When it comes to prepositions, we use them combined with other words to connect the idea. For example, with the word at, the adjectives that it often combines with are good at, bad at, skilled at, efficient at, amazed at, angry at, or furious at. So when we have the preposition at, it's used to talk about the skill that it's used to often talk about skills and how you are at that skill. For example, I'm bad at cooking. And after prepositions, this is also very important for English sentence structure. After prepositions, we can use a noun or we can use an ing verb. So I'm good at cooking or I'm good at math, for example. Remember that after prepositions in English, we use ing verbs or nouns. That's also very important because a lot of people in your native language, it might not make sense because you're like, what? That's the continuous verb. But in English, we also use ing verbs after prepositions. I am looking at you, exactly. It doesn't change the meaning of the adjective. No, in this case, it does not, because when a preposition changes the meaning of the word it's together with, like I turn my head or I turn on the light, that's a phrasal verb. So when the preposition added changes the meaning of the word, that's a phrasal verb. Also, welcome to everyone. I'm so sorry that it was not working before. I was not sure if I should just start over, but it ended up being the best thing to do. So we're going to continue from here. Okay, so we use at with skills and also with anger. I'm angry at someone. I'm furious at someone. The tricky thing is that there's never one there's never one definition or translation of a preposition into your native language. For example, even in English, I say I'm angry at you or I'm jealous of you. It's not always the same preposition. So it's kind of something you need to memorize or get comfortable with the patterns. And we can use a verb with ing before. Yeah, so those are all of the adjectives, the ones that I mentioned, like good at, angry at. On the right side, we have to look at, stare at, laugh at, point at, smile at, and wave at, and yell at. These are verbs that combine with at, and we combine verbs with at when we are directing the action at another person. I look at you. I stare at you. It's something I do to you. So we can have the verb in any conjugation. I am looking at you. I am staring at you. For example. So after the preposition, especially when it's an adjective in these cases, we very often use an ing verb or a noun, and we could also use a verb with the word at. So, nice examples in the chat. I am pointing at you because I love you. I am laughing at you because I love you. I'm yelling at you because this is like getting increasingly more toxic. So this is like the base of what you should remember when it comes to collocations, and you will need this for the next part. People might say I'm pretty good at talking crap. It's one of my special powers. Angry at or with. Angry can be angry at or angry with. Both of them are correct. I've heard people say that angry with is a little bit more like someone close to you, and angry at can also be with a little bit more distance. So both of them are correct, but that's the small nuance that I've heard people say there, that I'm angry with you could be a little bit more like a friend or someone that you care about, and angry at could be any person. I'm laughing about you, not at you. Exactly. Some people say, like, no, I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing with you. Like, we are laughing together. Why do you say, look me in the eye, not looking at me in the eye? I think because we use, I'm looking at, look at me, look at my eyes. If it's in a very physical way, like a literal way, look at my eyes, look at my arm, then we use at. But that expression, look me in the eye, is kind of like telling the person to make eye contact and focus on me. And so it has this not so literal meaning. So we use look me in the eye. But when, in general, when you're talking about an object that you're looking at, we would say with at, when it's not a specific expression like that. I'm angry at him for being late. Yes, nice. I'm laughing with you, but not at you. Exactly. My dad used to say, I'm talking about you, not to you. What's the difference between she's screaming to versus at me? She's screaming to me. Okay, the difference with that is if she is screaming to you, maybe she's outside and she has a problem, like her car runs into a tree. And she's like, help, silly sausage, help! She's screaming to you. But screaming at you would be like if you ran into her car and she's mad at you and she's like, how dare you do this? that would be like if her anger or emotions are directed at you, that would be to scream at you. But if she needs help about a situation, but you didn't really cause the situation, she just wants to get you to come help her or something like that, it would be she screamed to you, which is very specific. So I understand if you guys are like, what? Look at and look to are interchangeable. No. Because, for example, I'm looking at look to is, I would say look at is the most common in literal ways. I'm looking at him. I'm looking at the sign. Look to is maybe if I need help, then I can turn to someone or look to someone to help me out. So it's a less literal meaning. Okay, so with this in mind, all of these collocations with at, we're going to continue to the next part. So, we can make a question using at the end of the question. For example, what are you good at? Or what's something you're good at? Or who do you never yell at, for example? Or who is a person that you never yell at? So we can ask questions about people or things, and putting the preposition at the end of the question is the most common word order, especially in spoken English. I've been missing your wonderful voice. Yes, that is the right tense. Thank you. I've been missing your wonderful voice. I'm good at driving cars. Okay. Yeah, so what are you good at? I'm good at driving cars. What is something that you What is something that you are always laughing at? I would say. What is something that you are always laughing at? That's a good question. I would say in my case, I'm always laughing at, I think when there's a funny video on Reels or TikTok and you read the comments and people write really funny things in the comments, I would say funny comments are something that I always laugh at. What are you looking at? That's a very good one. If you guys are on the metro in New York City and some guy is staring at you, you could say, hey, what are you looking at? Who do you think you're looking at? Who are you waving at, right? We can ask, who are you waving at? If you're walking with your friend and your friend starts waving at a stranger, you'd say like, who are you waving at? Who are you waving at? So it's very common with questions of what or who, and we have the option, what are you good at? Or what is something that you are good at? But in English, it's optional to include the word that. We can remove it. What's something that you are good at, or what's something you're good at? Both of them are correct. Why are those people... If you're asking why, you would just say, why are those people furious? At is used to connect the person doing the action to the object. So I would say, what are those people furious at? But just why are they furious? Who is the dog barking at? Yes, if you guys watch my lives and hear dogs barking in the background, you can say, who is the dog barking at? What are you efficient at? Yeah, think of this like if you're in a job interview, for example. Only with what and who. Let me think. Yeah, I would say only with what and who. Because, for example, I wouldn't say where is a place that you I wouldn't say where is a place that you are amazed at. I would say what is a place that you are amazed at. So that's a good question. Yes, with what and who. Because these are object questions that we're asking. So it's with what or who, exactly. Or you could say what place, or, what's an activity that you're good at? Who is a person? You can use different objects or people in the question, but I would use it with what or who as the question word. That's a good question. Okay. Mumbai Indians are good at the playoffs. Make a question is to formulate the question, ask. Yes, exactly. In this case, I said make because I wanted you to construct the question. What place are you looking at? Yeah, like if someone's looking at a map and there are a lot of places. Oh, what city are you looking at? What place are you looking at on the map? Okay. So this is when you're making a question. And hello, if you're joining, we are practicing using at the end of questions. Who are you smiling at? We can use it with questions asking about people or objects. I'm going to bring us to the next part because I feel like the way to practice this is first get used to sentences using these combinations. I'm good at reading. I'm bad at math, for example. Then practice making questions, using them at the end of questions. And after that, we're going to use them in relative clauses. What's something that you're always laughing at? Why present continuous, not present simple? That's a good question. It could be both. What's something that you always laugh at is perfect. But also, especially in United States American English, we very often use the continuous tense to talk about a habit using the word always. Like, I'm always laughing at memes. He's always telling me about his life. You could use the present simple as well because it's something that you do always, but we can use the continuous tense to emphasize that it's happening continuously over and over again. So that's a good question. Really, we can use both. It sounds more conversational, the continuous tense. I'm absolutely amazed by the current book I'm reading. I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Harpman. Okay, I haven't read that book, but it sounds interesting. Also, hello, thank you. Welcome to everyone who's joining. We're going to continue now to the part that I think people struggle with a little bit more, but I'm gonna help you guys out. Okay, so we can basically use the preposition at the end of a question, which also means that we can use it at the end of a defining relative clause. For example, When we say, he is the man that I yelled at, I'm describing which man and saying the man that I yelled at, not the other man, but that man that I yelled at. So the clause, the defining relative clause, is used to be more specific. So I have some structures here in case you're not really sure how to structure the sentence, so you can practice it. So we have here, blah, blah, blah is the thing that I've always been good at. You can put a noun or an ing verb here. So math is the thing that I've always been good at. Or reading is the thing that I've always been good at. So if you have any examples of sentences with the object or ing verb first, and then say, is the thing that I've always been good at. You could also say, math is something that I've always been good at. So imagine in a real life situation, we're talking about math, and I tell you, oh, I really am not good at math. You can say, yeah, for me personally, math is something that I've always been good at. And it's also something that I've always been interested in. You might hear someone describing math by putting a clause like this with the preposition at the end. So I recommend practicing it so that you can be aware of how it works. Cooking is the thing that I've always been good at. Or cooking is something that I've always been good at. Maybe it's not something, if it's something that you're not good at, you could say cooking is something I've always wanted to be good at. We can use different tenses as well. Wave in this case, whenever it's a verb, means to say hello or goodbye with your hand, is to wave. Painting is something that I've always been good at. And remember, we can even add details. Painting realistic images of people is something I've always been good at. Accounting on, I don't know, maybe working on a team with other people with complex personalities is something that I've always been good at. Talking to people from different backgrounds that have different life experiences that I can't always relate to is something that I've always been good at. Overthinking and obsessing over mistakes that I've made in the past is something that I've always been good at. Poke the fire or poking at the fire. I don't know. I think it depends. I've heard more poking at the fire. Because, so for example, if you have some skin on your face and you're kind of touching it or you're poking something over, we say picking at something or poking at something. So that's what comes to mind for me, but I'm not really sure. Looking at the next one, what is something that you've always been amazed at? Notice how when I'm asking this question, I'm also using the same word order. So tell me, what is something that you've always been amazed at? Or that right now, what is something that you are amazed at right now? Sleeping is the thing that she has always been good at. Exactly. Taking care of people is something I've always been good at. Nice. The answer is always use verb plus ing, or it can be any verb. In this case, because we're starting the sentence with a verb, if we're starting the sentence with a verb, it needs to be the ing verb. If we're starting the sentence with a noun, it could be just a noun. So for example, Math is the thing that I've always been good at. We can just use the word math like a noun. But if I want to use the verb solve math problems, I need to put it into the ing form. So solving math problems is something that I've always been good at. Maggie, what have you always been amazed at? Ooh, that's a good question. I think that I've always been amazed at maybe other people and the difference in how, I mean, we all have a lot of similarities, but I've always been amazed at people when you meet them and they have a special interest or topic that they know about, and it's not something that you know about at all, and you start talking to them. I can get really amazed at other people's knowledge of things that I don't know anything about. Like when you speak to someone who knows a lot about the history of, I don't know, botanical things. And I've always been really amazed at people that have certain interests that are very different from my own, but you can also recognize the passion that they have because you feel that way, but about different topics. I would say that's something I've always been amazed at. What about you? Or I know maybe also like really large natural phenomena. Phenomena is the plural with the A on the end. Phenomena. Like if you just see a huge mountain or the ocean or something that is just like way bigger than yourself, it gives you that sense of awe. That's something I've always been amazed at. We can also use it in a negative way a bit, like what Silly Sausage said, how politicians get away with stuff is something that I'm always amazed at. And yeah, in this case, you are using this clause, how politicians get away with stuff. And so, yeah, that's another, it's like a noun clause. It's acting as a noun. So we can use how politicians get away with stuff is something that I'm amazed at. Cooking is the thing I have always been good at. Nice. Daydreaming is something that I'm good at. That makes you a great teacher. I appreciate that. Or maybe also because I'm a student of a lot of things. I've always been amazed at living alone. Like that you yourself are living alone or other people living alone. Reading is the thing I'm amazed at. Cooking is the thing I've always been good at. Exactly. And that is optional. You can use that. Honestly, I use that when I'm making a really long, complex sentence and I want to be very clear. But often in conversational contexts, people just do not include that. So it's good to be aware of that as well. Okay, something you shouldn't point at. Wave is this. It's to say hello or goodbye. You can wave hello or wave goodbye with your hand. What is something that you shouldn't point at? What is something that you shouldn't point at? To point at, I would say, I don't know. I'm imagining a child on the metro. I've learned that it's better to say he's the man who I yelled at. So, because in defining relative clauses, when the thing is a person, you have the two options. You can say who or that. I find that most native speakers use that instead of who. Both are technically correct. It's possible in more traditional grammar they wanted you to use who and not that. But specifically with defining relative clauses, these ones, you can use that or who with people. With things, you can use which or that. So that can work for people or things. I think with non-defining relative clauses, that's where you cannot use that. So, the man, like the church, which is down the road from my house, is big. Because if you're using that, it turns it into a defining relative clause. So, yeah, I would say with defining relative clauses, you can use that or who. It's rude to point at people. That is something it's rude to point at people, period. That is something you shouldn't point at. Angry is something you shouldn't point at. Here you need some sort of person or action. Like, angry people are people you shouldn't point at. Or someone who is angry is someone that you shouldn't point at, for example. Telling my boss's mistakes is something that you shouldn't point at. When it comes to mistakes, it might make sense to point out, like to indicate something, like this is a problem, we use to point out. Point at is more literal. Like, a stranger's pimple is something that you shouldn't point at. Yes, exactly. There are some situations we drop that. This is one of those situations. So that for that reason, I put that in parentheses, and the bottom two don't even have that. What's the difference between that and which when we speak about objects or things and situations? In this case, there's no difference. Which native speakers use that more frequently, but in this case of defining relative clauses, these are defining relative clauses, you could use that or which. When it comes to a non-defining relative clause, so defining relative clauses is when you need this information to understand what someone is talking about. I can't say the man ate my sandwich. You'll say, what man? Which man? I'll say, oh, the man that I told you about ate my sandwich. That is a defining relative clause. It's not possible to understand what I'm talking about unless I include this defining relative clause. I'm saying this is who the man is. When it's a non-defining relative clause, it's usually in the middle of the sentence, and in that case we can use which but not that. So an example would be like the movie, which hadn't started yet, was going to take 3 hours. In that case, I'm just adding additional information. But if I say the movie that hadn't started yet will be 3 hours, in that case, it's working like a defining relative clause, where I'm including that information because otherwise you wouldn't know what movie it is. So in defining relative clauses, you can use that or which interchangeably, but that can also be used for people. And in non-defining relative clauses, you should not use that. If this is something that's confusing, I recommend looking up more information after the class, because I feel like that could be a whole other topic. But yes, you shouldn't point at your boss. Exactly. Okay, I'm going to continue to the next part. And hello, welcome if you are joining. Today we are practicing preposition stranding, having prepositions at the end of sentences, and which adjectives and verbs to use with different prepositions. Okay. That was by mistake. Hello. Surprise. Okay. I have collocations with in. So, in the movie one, you can use both, but it has a different meaning. If you say the movie that didn't start on time, it's like you're telling me which movie because there are multiple, so you're instructing me about, you're letting me know that necessary information to know which movie you're talking about. But if you're including the phrase not to tell me which one, but rather just to give additional information, it would be better to use which. So you could use both, but it changes the meaning of what you're saying. But I'll need to think about it because there are also times where you need to only use a non-defining relative clause, but I didn't really mentally prepare to to think about that today, so I recommend looking it up, and I'll see if I can think of any examples. So then we have collocations with in. So in combines also, similar to at, with different adjectives and verbs. The adjectives could be something like I'm interested in this, I'm invested in this, I'm experienced in this, I'm involved in this, I'm immersed in this, I'm proficient in this, or I'm fluent in this. So while we don't have one translation or definition of prepositions, we do have patterns, right? So you can see here, when we're putting our energy into something, I'm interested in this, I'm invested in this, I'm involved, I'm immersed, we'll use in those cases. And that can kind of help you get a visual for how to use in combined with different adjectives. Now, we also use it when you're proficient in something or fluent in something. For all of you, this is a very important thing to remember for talking to people about English, right? You can say, are you proficient in English? Are you fluent in English? Are you interested in learning English? Or are you interested in English? Are you immersed in English? A lot of these here you'll probably use frequently when talking to people about your English. So I recommend making some sentences using these to practice. I need to be fluent in English. Perfect. The KJV Bible uses the combination believe on to say believe on Jesus. Really? That is very interesting to me because that does not sound natural at all to me to believe on something. But I would say believe in. But very interesting. I would be curious about the reason that they translated it that way. I'm fluent in 3 languages. So then we have to believe in something. Believe and trust. These are 2 words where it's possible to not use a preposition, or we can use in. And the difference is that when you believe someone or trust someone, it's like you think what they're saying is true, for example. But when you believe in something, it's kind of a sense of hope. Like, I believe in God. I believe in the goodness of other people. It shows this overall belief system that you have where that is something that you have faith in. So that's the difference if you just, I believe you. It's like, I trust what you're saying. Or I believe in you. I know that you're going to do well and that you're going to go far and that the goodness of the world will take you places. So that's the difference when we add in. Then we have to confide in is another verb that combines with in. To confide in is to trust someone with secrets or information. That person is your confidant. We call the person that you can tell everything to is your confidant. And you confide in that person. You tell them personal things about yourself. That is to confide in someone. I believe in consistency because when you're consistent, you can achieve all your goals. Perfect. I'm involved in problems all the time. Me too, Coral. I have been immersed in English for 2 years. Nice. Very good. Then we also have some others. So to participate in or take part in, these are very similar. To participate in and take part in. Take part in is a phrasal verb, but it's also used basically to say participate in. You are taking part in my class. You could also say partake in. Yes, that would be less common and a little bit more formal sounding, but that's another way to say it. I believe in the efficiency of shadowing to improve my pronunciation. Nice. Yes. Then we also have you can specialize in something, or succeed in something, or take pride in something. To take part is like to participate. So I'm taking part in a book club, for example, or I'm taking part in an English class. It's like I'm participating. I participate in Maggie's classes as often as possible. Nice. You can say as often as it's possible is correct grammar-wise, or as often as possible. A lot of people say that, like if you've ever heard ASAP. I took part in a debate competition last month. Nice. I specialize in talking a lot. That is my specialty. I would say, I will always confide in you. Doctors should take pride in their job. Yes. Nice example. Exactly. All right, we are going to practice making questions similar to before, putting the preposition at the end of the question. So I'm going to share with you guys this one. All right, so remember, they are what questions and who questions. I'm taking part in an English class because I want to specialize in this language. Very good. So we have, what are you interested in? And hello, if you're joining, we are practicing using prepositions at the end of sentences. These all are words that combine with the word in. What's the logic of the sleep in expression? I would say sleep in, instead of being a collocation, is a phrasal verb because it's changing the literal meaning of the word a bit more. Sleep in. I don't know what the logic is. I don't know if it had something to do with the time. Like, I kind of imagine that the clock is at 8 and you don't wake up and you continue sleeping until late. So maybe the clock is going, I don't know. I honestly am not sure what the original logic was of that expression. Can we say all of these become adjectives once used with in? I'm not sure if I understand your question. Could you explain it? Adjectives when used with in or adverb. Oh, okay. That is a movie that I'm interested in. I would say these to me are like adjective clauses because like that's a good movie or that's a movie that I'm interested in. So you're describing the movie. Which movie? The movie that you're interested in. Which car? The car that you, I don't know, take pride in. I would use them kind of like an adjective describing the object. What kind of hobby are you immersed in, Maggie? I am immersed in yoga because I do yoga on my own, but I have recently started taking yoga classes in person, but I can't always make the class times because they're kind of the same as my teaching schedule. So sometimes I do them online. She offers like online or in-person classes. Yeah, I would use them as an adjective. Exactly. I didn't understand your question at first, but yes. Could you please pronounce experienced? Experienced. Experienced. And remember, because we're adding the word in at the end of all of these words, it's really good if you want to practice your pronunciation to not just say experienced, but experienced in, experienced in. Practice saying the word in after using these words. Interested in, invested in, experienced in. It kind of sounds like din when you add the in afterwards. Let me see if you guys were sending other messages. How often are you immersed in yoga? I would say 3 times a week now that I started this class. So I'm hoping I would like to do it every day, but sometimes I do not motivate myself to do it, even though it feels good after. I don't know if anyone else has that experience, but with my class, it's twice, but I also do yoga at home. Do you think you're investing enough time in training yoga? No, I feel like it's something I should do every day considering the amount of time that I sit. How invested are you in the relationship? That's a very good question here. How invested are you in the relationship? And you could say, I am very invested in the relationship. I believe in love, and I take pride in my relationship. I'm fluent in love. No, I'm just kidding. That's not. Nice examples of questions. Remember, we could ask questions using what or who. So, who do you never yell at? Who do you believe in? Whose life are you involved in? Who do you confide in? Or with what? What do you succeed in? What are you invested in? Etc. So, I have a set of some different questions that we're going to do here. So remember, this is the same thing that we did before, using the clause. So for example, he's the man that I yelled at. In this case, you can just add a noun or ing verb at the beginning of the sentence to answer the question, which one? So for example, you could say, German is a language that I'd like to be fluent in. I don't know, maybe teaching is something that I'm experienced in. Yoga classes online is something that is an activity that I want to participate in. My sister is someone I always confide in. Maddie Morrison on YouTube in German. Ooh, that would be interesting. I like that because I think it's good to find like real interests that you have to find authentic content, and I've never tried to do yoga in German. Now I'm doing it in Spanish, so but it's not difficult because I have done it in Spanish for a few years now, so it's predictable, like what the people say when you get used to a situation like that. So maybe it's time to participate in German yoga classes. You can make an example using any of these. Love is the language I'd like to be fluent in. Yes, very cheesy. To be fair, I also gave an example like that earlier, so I can't hate on you for being cheesy. Turkish and English are languages that I'd love to be fluent in. Turkish seems interesting. I don't know if any of you guys connected are from Turkey, but I've seen that I have a few people that connect sometimes from Turkey. First aid is something that I'm experienced in. Nice. That's a good example. Remember, they can be ing verbs or nouns. Ing verbs or nouns. Someone I always confide in. Does anyone have an example with that? Remember that to confide in someone is to tell them personal information, trust them with your secrets, etc. That is to confide in someone. To have them as your confidant is to confide in someone. You could also think of a negative, like who is someone that you cannot confide in? Take me on or take me in. Yeah, that's an interesting one. We talked about take me on in a live before because technically it should be, yeah, take me on would be like try me out, and take me in would be like let me stay in your house in a more literal way. English speaking club is something that I want to participate in, but I don't have enough time. Very good. Yes, exactly. Nice structure there. My mother is someone that I always confide in. Perfect. I am a Turkish woman from Belgium. In 2 weeks, I am going to take the C1 English exam. Good luck. So you are living in Belgium, taking an English exam. I love how global the the world is. Awesome. Okay, I have a final review for you guys. This is a test to see. This is a low stakes. This is a low stakes test, so no worries. But I want you to write a question that has a preposition at the end and write a sentence that has a preposition at the end. Give me those two things as a final demonstration of what you learned today. I don't have anyone in my life to whom I can confide in. I would remove to because you have the preposition in. So it's not to confide to, it would be to confide in. But I don't know the structure, how that would be with whom, because that sounds a little bit interesting. I don't have anyone in my life in whom I can confide. Yeah, personally, I posted a video about how I do not use whom. So I sometimes enter meetings in Turkish and understand a little. It's awful not to know most of what's spoken, but I keep going. Nice. It's interesting that you guys are learning each other's languages too. So the subject of the oral exam will be the TED Talk of Malcolm Gladwell, The Tipping Point. Ooh, okay. That's interesting. So you need to prepare to speak at length about the tipping point. Good luck. I bet, are there similar talks online that you can see to kind of shadow and imitate? Probably you've already thought of that, but don't use whom. Yeah, I personally never use whom. I watch so many cooking TV shows because it's something I'm interested in. Nice. A choir is something I would like to participate in. Ooh, that would be cool. I like choirs because you kind of all sing in harmony together and it feels, I don't know. It feels like what is it? That the whole is bigger than the sum of its parts. Like the voice that everyone has together feels very powerful. I can't seem to figure out where my life is heading to. I would include the word is, but very good. Love is something I should believe more in. Nice. What is something you are good at? Perfect. What amazing thing do you have experience in, I would say. If you're asking if someone has experience in something, what amazing thing do you have experience in? I would say. I put here, gastronomy is something that I'm opinionated on. I take part in speaking classes in order to prepare for my oral exam. Nice. Gynecology is something I specialize in. You could say I'm specialized with the D on the end because you took the classes, you are certified in this, you graduated. So instead of saying I specialize in something, that you could say I specialize in if you actively right now are teaching. Imagine I'm teaching English classes, and I teach English classes specifically for people who are doctors. Then I could say I specialize in English for doctors, or I specialize in teaching English to doctors. But if I'm talking about my degree and my training and what I studied for, I could use I am specialized in. So we have the two options. You can use it like as a verb or as a noun, or as an adjective, sorry. What show are you into? Currently, I would say I'm loving watching. I would use the ing verb there. I'm loving watching The Walking Dead. I'm loving to watch. I'm loving to see. I don't know. I feel that I'm loving watching, but I don't know. I haven't had breakfast yet, so take that with a grain of salt. All right. But very nice job to everyone. I think, did I put on a filter? Wait. Yeah, what? Okay, this is what I actually look like. I think I accidentally did a filter. It's better than, I think I did the slug one once where it turned me into It turned me into a slug. Oh no, that's not the right one. Anyways, I am going to upload this onto Spotify so you can listen to the audio version with the transcript. I'm also going to upload this onto YouTube so you can watch it with the video. Sorry to everyone that joined at the beginning when there was the connectivity problem. I'm glad that we resolved it. And yeah, I hope you have a good rest of your Saturday. And I hope to see you again soon. I don't know if I can go live next Saturday because I will be traveling, but I'm going to make the announcement here and hopefully we can get back to the normal schedule after the next week. So thanks everyone for your participation, and I hope you have a good weekend. Take care. Goodbye. I know I'm waiting for the messages to come in because sometimes when I log out like instantly, I think I miss some people, but have a nice day. Take care, everyone.